All right, and we are live with episode 55 of the PHU Dynasty podcast. This is your championship preview, and boy, do we have, I don't want to say expected, but pretty much an expected final two here with the Lake Lure Long Gamers and the Los Angeles Lambs. Lots of L's for me to discuss here today, specifically my L, but just the acronyms
Yeah.
too. Lots of L's going on, but we have a couple of great guests here. We have our mainstay Sean O'Shea and the Long Gamers, but we also brought on the Los Angeles Lambs GM James Seafood to discuss the big matchup and what to expect this week. Surprisingly, no starters today in today's shit show of a game. Uh,
It's a
I
lot of
don't even know
points.
what's happening. I haven't followed along since I left the restaurant, so I'm not sure what's going on right now.
Joe
But it
Flacco's
appears
elite
that
again.
Joe Flacco is the best quarterback of all time.
Apparently.
At least I was reading a stat before we got on here that he, I think, has set a record for most 250-yard games, consecutive 250-yard games in Cleveland Browns history, which is, I don't know what that says, but
Well, it
it's
says a
pretty
lot about the
amazing.
Browns too. Yeah.
It's the most like 250-yard games with 2 touchdowns for a player in his first 5 games with a new NFL team, which is insane. So the Browns apparently are in great hands with Joe Flacco, the 38-year-old Joe Flacco. So who knew?
Is this just the case for the NFL to just get rid of training camp, or like
It doesn't seem to be affecting some of these guys. I'll tell you that. I mean, it seems like we're just getting more quarterback injuries for the players that started off, maybe with the full season. But I think turf is more to blame for that than anything. But
Yeah.
anywho, let's get into the main topic of discussion. We got Roscoe squeaking toys. We got to take this one away, buddy. I'm sorry, can't do that today. We'll give it back. It's funny enough, it's a lamb.
Oh,
that's what I
Wow.
want to do to you
With a party
too.
hat, James. You got to get one of these.
with the part. Wow, I love
Lamb
that.
with a party hat.
Well,
Jeez.
how was
Maybe-
he squeaking it? Was he chewing it or was he humping it?
Perhaps a little of both, Sean. We just don't know yet. I mean, I wasn't looking with intent eyes, but it sounded like he was chewing it. But anywho, maybe is that a sign of things to come for the Lambs? We don't know. Maybe getting chewed up a little bit by the Long Gamers. You never know. All right, James doesn't. But he's got the Christian McCaffrey shirt on. James,
Yeah,
talk about
come
the shirt here for a second. This is quite a pull.
Yeah. Well, no, I was in San Francisco in October this year and had to support my guy when I was out there. He's given me lots of joy and cash in this league. So, I figured support him, and on the Niners, he's been amazing this year, and I think even that weekend he was awesome as he's been all year. Like he's
a stud.
playing Washington this week. Like, come on.
I'll
Down.
have you know, I supported my best player too. I actually just got back. I was beating up a fisherman, and back.
Yeah. Very good. Tyreek would be proud.
One of the Bash brothers. All right, so let's talk about the matchup. Actually, first we'll talk about how we got there. So week 16 of the season, semifinals, the Lake Lure Long Gamers take down your beloved Texas Armadillos 119-111. Unfortunately, I think the George Pickens benching did it in for me. It was a tough one. He had literally done nothing for the previous 13 weeks and decided that he was going to have the game of his career in the week. Oh, we got another toy now. This is exciting. Can you guys even hear that?
Just faintly.
Okay, maybe it's not that bad. All right, sorry, buddy. This time it's a pizza, if anybody was wondering. Yeah, so I mean, George Pickens. I was deciding between him and Tyler Boyd. I felt like the veteran presence was the move. The locker room guy. Maybe I just should have looked at the revenge game potential for George Pickens being quite a chooch for pretty much the entire week before that, and maybe the vengeance game was should have been easier for me to pick out. But unfortunately, I did not pull it off, and 111 was not enough to top the Long Gamers, who had a down week. Frankly, there was quite a few duds for the Long Gamers, so that was a good opportunity for me to kind of sneak in there, but we just couldn't make it happen. And then the Long Gamers, the Los Angeles Lambs, putting up a hell of a week last week, 183 against a very formidable 138 for the Cheese Fries. James, talk about that game last week a little bit. It looks like you had pretty large performances from Mike Evans and CD Lamb, the usual 20 points for those guys, it seems like at this point. And then, quite a big performance from Amari Cooper there with the 42.
Yeah, it all starts with Amari Cooper last week. I think literally the first play that they showed on Red Zone was a 50-yard bomb to Amari Cooper. And I was like, okay, this looks interesting.
That's nice. That's nice.
This is nice. And Houston's pass defense has been like bad all year. So like I expected like a good game. Flacco's been slinging. I was like, oh, Amari Cooper should get me, maybe 100 yards and touchdown. But it was just nonstop with Cooper. And then, Baker and Mike Evans came through. Obviously
Baker played a nice game too.
Yeah, I don't get anything from tight ends. That's just like canon at this point. But
he scores 183 without a tight end.
It's just maybe the last week of the year will be the week I get 10 points from a tight end, but I'm not counting on it.
You're not gonna stroke your ego with the Demarcus Robinson start last week.
Actually, you're right. It does start there. You're right. It started
that 14 burger from
DeMarcus. Set the tone on Thursday.
6 for 82 and a touchdown on Thursday Night Football. Well, you love to see it.
The 3 weeks before that, he had a touchdown. The unfortunate thing was like my team was super healthy during the whole year, and I've caught the injury bug late. Right? Obviously, Justin Herbert, Tank Dell, Brian Robinson got banged up. Eric, I traded you Tyler Boyd.
Sure did.
Because my team was like, I don't need him, and like I'm glad I traded him because I started Demarcus Robinson instead. But a player like him is like, in my opinion, it's a big like fun thing about our league, right? It's like with so many starting spots, like you got to grind and find these types of players, right? Because not every team is going to be super deep, right? Like because I caught my injuries later in the year, so I had to scramble for one spot, and he came through.
Yeah, he kind of gives me that Jerick McKinnon vibe. You just kind of find these random guys that look at the last 4 weeks for Robinson. He's had over 10 points in every single game, scored a touchdown in the last 4 weeks straight. Yeah. I mean, it's just off, and literally had done quite literally nothing. He had 1 point through 9 weeks.
Was he on the yeah, it was weird because like Tutu Atwell got hurt, and then so he had been playing for the Rams, like having
he didn't even play 20% of the snaps until week 12.
I know. It's
off
very
the wall.
Very strange, but I needed him then, and I need him again this week because Amari Cooper, did all his work on Tibbs last week and inactive tonight. So I got to go back to the well on DeMarcus.
Yeah, he really banged himself up. Pretty much this entire season, I feel like Amari Cooper's been banged up. I've had him in another league, and it's been a little bit frustrating, but he always seems to play. So Tibbs almost pulled it off with a pretty big performance to almost offset it with Breece Hall.
Yeah,
scoring 31 points.
We were throwing haymakers in the 1 o'clock game because he had Breece Hall, and I think Gibbs had a big game for the cheese fries as well.
He sure did. He had 20 points, 2 touchdowns. Interesting note about Breece Hall. Former FGCU folks who watch games know that any running back that eclipses the 14 catch mark is considered a PPR legend. He almost got there. He had 16 targets, but only caught 12 of them. So actually, James, you'll be happy to know the first ever PPR legend in the FGCU dorm room was Roy Helu with 14 catches.
Oh, yes.
For the Washington Redskins at the time. He had a big 14 catch game. So
former member of the Lambs. I definitely started him way back in the day.
Yes, sir. It was him and Evan Royster at the time. Another great name drop there.
Washington.
So Tibbs, unfortunately, his season ends a little bit earlier maybe than he had hoped for. I think he probably didn't think that it would be, quite a disparity in points here. But, 183 is a great week. And Cade Otton, 1 for 1, 7 yards. James, can we get 3 out of the tight end this week?
Well, we're starting Gerald Everett, and the last 4 weeks he's had like between 3.9 and 4.2. Like that's what he does. So okay. I'm banking on 4 points this week with
Take the over on 3 points
with maybe a suck out touchdown. So that's what that's.
Whoa.
All right. Well, with that, we'll get into the big matchup here. No starters today in the game, so we don't. Luckily, we don't have anything spoiled by today's game.
Oh, is that Clyde I see now in the lineup? I didn't see that earlier.
Oh, this is a change. I didn't even recognize this was a change.
Yeah.
Oh.
I want to talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire here a little bit.
Yeah.
That's called a fat finger. That's what that's called.
Oh, okay. And we're back, and we changed it again.
That's a big upgrade there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Clyde, he might be the last man standing in Kansas City. Yeah.
You never know. He didn't practice though. He was out of practice today, so
Not
He
a
might not
great
be.
sign, but all right. So let's start at the top. We'll go Lamar Jackson versus Baker Mayfield. Let's start with Baker because he's been kind of the talk of the town in the Bucs world recently. He's been playing phenomenal football for the last 3 weeks in a row. I wouldn't say three, maybe last two. The Atlanta game was a bit of a shit show. But Green Bay obviously sets all kinds of records for a phenomenal performance in Lambeau. And then last week did just fine against Jacksonville with 26 of 35, 283 and 2 touchdowns. So, for a guy like yourself, James, that loses Herbert, it doesn't feel like a whole lot of drop off in production here.
No, well, I mean, especially because Herbert was starting to play not as well down the stretch, with Keenan Allen banged up, Mike Williams out for the year. Like even when they lost Josh Palmer, things started to go because it was only Keenan Allen and then he got hurt. I was this close, a little behind the curtains. Dustin and I had a deal I was going to send him Tank Dell for Lawrence and a second. And I'm very glad I did not do that. Yeah, there was some other stuff involved to make all the overall math work, but like the week before, because the week before I was considering them, but I was like, I only need a quarterback for hopefully 2 games, right? Because I had the bye week. And I was like, Baker against the Jags, like that's a good matchup. The Jags pass defense is bad, and it proved last week. So
A little bit of inside scoop here on the PHU Dynasty podcast. Hear about the trades that maybe
the
never
ones
see the light of day.
I'm glad it didn't happen because I've gotten here. I don't even think Trevor's going to play this week.
Yeah, he's scoring 183 without Herbert and with Baker in the lineup. That's pretty wild. And then for the other side of things, we got Lamar Jackson fired up as usual. Has had a couple really solid games here in the last 3 weeks. He's going against a Miami team, which kind of feels like a shootout-y kind of game to me, potentially. Sean, how are you feeling about Lamar heading into Miami?
Pretty good. Miami's got a good pass rush, so hopefully a lot of scramble drill would be good, rushing yards. And then preferably no short goal line work for the Ravens, hopefully doing their damage from 5 yards and out. That's usually when he gets his touchdown passes and his rushing touchdowns. So probably looking for that. If that's the case, he's going to put up points. He's going to put up points either way. But
yeah, no Gus Bus this week. Hopefully, that's really what it comes down to. He hasn't had a rushing touchdown since week 7, and that's probably mostly due to the Gus Bus.
That's a fun fact. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, it looks like he's only got 5 this year, and all 5 came in the first 7 weeks.
Yeah, I think he had a game with 2, so that'll bolster.
He had 2 games with 2. Was the Indy game in week 3, and then Cleveland in week 4. He had 2 touchdowns rushing, and then literally 1. So basically, for 13 of the weeks this year, he's had 1 touchdown on the ground. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, but I mean, Flowers likely and Beckham the last few weeks stepping up have been good.
Yeah, Likely has been really solid in the last couple of weeks, and then Flowers, of course, had a huge week last week. All right, let's get into I think this has got to be the meat and potatoes, perhaps, of this matchup here. Got some big hitters at the running back position. You got Christian McCaffrey, the number 1 running back. You've got Kyren Williams, the number 3 running back. You've got Raheem Mostert, the number 2 running back, and then ETN is the number 5 running back. So you got 4 of the top 5 running backs in this matchup. Frankly, this is I can't remember seeing anything like this recently with all these top players pretty much in the same exact matchup here. And a couple of these guys have excellent matchups too. Specifically, James's team with McCaffrey going against Washington, as mentioned earlier. And then you got ETN going against the Carolina defense that's not all that great.
That's the one that I'm hoping can be an X factor for the Lambs because ETN has not been as great the past 5-6 weeks. A lot of his points are banked from he had a 4 or 5 game stretch early in the year where he was 20 points a week. But since then,
week 5 to week 8, he didn't put up basically less than 20.
Didn't ETN's mom tweet out like hoping for an offensive line for Christmas this year for her son?
I did not see that, but I support that.
I'm
It's a
pretty
great
sure
hustle.
that's
I love
amazing.
that.
Very
Yeah,
true.
that offensive line has been a shit show. I mean, Trevor Lawrence getting the shit kicked out of him every single day. I mean, they could really use some help. But like James mentioned, Trevor Lawrence, or I'm sorry, not Travis Etienne, over the last 5 weeks or so, he had 8, 13, 13, 5, and 3. So a couple of
Yeah.
duds, if you will, despite getting the same exact. Actually, not even this. He's been getting less snaps ever since week 8. He was averaging about 80-something% of the snaps, and then lately it's been closer.
I think
in
he's
the
had an
60s.
injury. Like he's had an injury the past like 6 weeks, whatever, and so he's been like they've been like managing him. Again, they're still giving him the bulk of stuff, but I think he got a little banged up, probably on the heels of that 5-game stretch where he dominated.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the offensive line issues are highlighted here pretty good. He's down from 5.11 yards per carry down to 3.61 this year. Can't imagine that's
No.
mostly his fault. So
It's the touchdowns that have bailed him out. 9 touchdowns is for him. Is
yeah,
not what
9
I would have
touchdowns,
expected.
430 yards receiving as well helps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
he's one of those guys that's always just one play away though from having a good week.
right. And against Carolina,
Carolina, a very suspect defense to say the least. Let's go over to the other side of things. We got Kyron Williams, who has been an absolute baller since returning to the lineup
Yeah.
in week 11. I wish I had traded for him at this point, and I did not. But he was available at one point and is probably
He
no
sure
longer
was.
available. So at this point, he's getting a pretty juicy matchup against the Giants this week on the road. Any game in MetLife at this point in the season is more of a cold weather grudge match, if you will, with running the ball. I feel like it's a little bit of a bump there. He's playing plenty of snaps. He seems like he's getting 30 touches a game. Sean, do you have anything negative to say about Kyron Williams today?
Not really. I mean, I'm really just hoping for him and McCaffrey to just kind of balance each other out, which is a tall order. McCaffrey's going to get a lot of points. So, but I like my chances a lot if that happens.
Yeah, if they can be a net even, I think that might be a win for the long gamers there. And then Raheem Mostert, dude, what a stud all year long. I mean,
20
the fact that he's been
touchdowns?
able to stay healthy has been tremendous. It's never been done before. Basically, ever since.
I'll change his nickname if he makes it through this game.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I think
I think he
you might have
deserves
to
that.
change the nickname to championship ring holder if that happens. The last 5 weeks, he's been 21, 11, 22, 16, 11. He's had a couple of games where he hasn't played a whole lot. I think it's due to him being banged up, right?
Yeah, he took a helmet right to like the side of the knee last week. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Still got a late touchdown though that
Mhm.
helped.
Yeah, still getting the touchdowns, and even with Achane in the lineup, he's still producing. So it's been a hell of a year for Mostert, and frankly, I don't see it slowing down. However, he does get a tougher matchup this week against the old Ravens. So
Yeah, I'll be rooting for a nice grinder game for the Ravens Dolphins, but I highly that's three of your top players in that game. Like
That is my 3 top players, I would say, other than Kyron. Yeah.
that's a 12 o'clock game too. I honestly was hoping that was going to be like a primetime game.
I
but-
thought they might move it, but no, they're keeping it.
All right, well, that's the running back stable. I like I said, I do think this is one of the best running back matchups we've ever seen in the championship, so I'm really looking forward to that. Getting down into continuing meat and potatoes of these lineups.
You think that was good? Just wait until you get to the receivers.
Yeah, the receivers. This is truly we're a blessed group here in the PHU Dynasty League to be able to see this kind of matchup. And this is why I posted earlier in the week. As much fun as it would have been to have the Armadillos in the championship game. I don't think it would have been the same seeing Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins, and George Pickens out there instead of these guys. I feel like this is a little bit better of a talented group here. So let's start on Sean's side here. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown against Dallas, dome game on Saturday night. So that should be a fun primetime game to watch. Amon-Ra has been just phenomenal all year long. He's completely lived up to the hype as that was expected. I actually was concerned a little bit prior to the year. The hype had reached pretty amazing levels before the season had started, but he's lived up to every bit of that hype this year. His last 5 games, he's been 9-10-2, a little bit of a dud against Chicago, but then has totally remade up for it against Denver and Minnesota the last 2 weeks with 100 yards plus and a touchdown in each game. It's hard for him to see, or hard for me to see anything less than 10 points here, Sean. Are you seeing something different, perhaps?
No, I mean, he's just Mr. Consistency. He's had 2 games this year outside of the top 27 wide receivers. So never a ton of points, never like a Tyreek or CeeDee Lamb blow-up game, but just consistent.
And he's also he is now 146 targets and 106 catches, which is exactly what he had that last year through 16 games, which is totally insane that those numbers almost completely align. He's on pace for what feels like 1,400 yards and 9-ish touchdowns, which would be just a phenomenal season for Amon-Ra. And, for the long gamers, with maybe a couple of older, not older, I guess Tyreek is the only older one. A nice youth infusion at the wide receiver position, if you will. And then let's go over to, on the other side, we got CeeDee Lamb, the Lamb of God, of course. How could we forget the Lamb of God? Just completely destroying the season. There was kind of similar questions. Could he really be that, top 3 dynasty wide receiver heading into the season? He's answered the question. I don't see any. Was he a true wide receiver 1? Was also a question I think we asked in the offseason. I do believe that is the case now. So I might have said that I wasn't as impressed, but now I am definitely impressed. These numbers, James, look at these numbers. This is insane. I mean you've been looking at these numbers all year, but for the last 5 weeks, we've had 13, 21, 13, 11, 20. He's a 17. Seattle. Oh, what else can you say about this guy? He's got 1,400 yards and 9 touchdowns. We've still got 2 games to go. Tremendous player. Yeah.
Started off.
So I guess
let's
talk about Brandon Cooks a little bit too here with the fact that you have both receivers. Tell me about the mindset heading into the game with those 2 guys.
Well, some of it is I'm slightly limited on options, but with my bench. But I was actually planning to start Cooks over Demarcus Robinson if Cooper was going to play tonight. Look, Cooks has been good at home. The Cowboys have been good at home, right? And this feels like, Saturday night in the Dome, Dallas has lost 2 in a row. Like, Dallas and Detroit, it just feels like that's going to be a higher scoring game. Like, I feel like it's a good spot. Frankly, I didn't want to start him last week playing against Tibbs because Tibbs had Dak. I was just like, why am I chasing that, right? Like, with Cooks, like, was he going to get 20, 30 yards and a touchdown? And that's kind of what happened. And it's like, I wanted to go a different direction. That is why I went to Marcus last week. But Cooks, I'm pretty much I'm hoping for 40, 50 yards and a touchdown against the Lions in what could be a shootout game. But
and that kind of feels very possible based on what you're saying. His home and away splits have been pretty drastic, and he's been scoring a lot of touchdowns in the short yardage areas in the red zone this year. So I think there's going to be multiple opportunities for that this time.
The Lions are also kind of a pass funnel. It feels like they do a good job stopping the run. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunities to pass the ball. So between him and Lamb,
their secondary is not that strong.
No.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, like I want this game to go like how the Bills game went a couple weeks ago, where they just control the ball the majority of the time. Which I mean, they have the running game to do it. Dallas is their interior run defense.
It's not good, but they're truly a different team on that home turf. It feels like in Dallas. Like in Buffalo in the crap weather. In hindsight, it's like, okay, well, actually that kind of makes sense. Last week against Miami maybe Miami ran on them too. So yeah, we'll see.
All right, we're gonna skip over the wide receiver quote 2s on these teams for right now. Sean, I want you to maybe give us some insight as the resident Philadelphia Eagles fan here with A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert in a home game against Arizona on Sunday. What are you seeing out of these 2 guys, and what are you expecting?
I mean, Arizona's a sieve on defense. I mean, it's just a matter of who's going to get it this week. Frankly, AJ Brown is due.
He is.
What I'm leaning on, this week, what I'm hoping for. A lot of people have kind of knocked Stephon Diggs like the second half of the year, but since the Eagles bye week, AJ Brown has been bad. He's just been bad.
He hasn't scored over 10. Although, like I said, 1 week against San Francisco, the rest of it has been under 10.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, he
was a stud early in the year.
Oh yeah, he was amazing beginning part of the year. But I mean, he's got the capability always of it. Honestly, like there's not many teams like if he has a great game where you can really shut him down if he's going. So Arizona's not one of those teams that has anybody that can really guard him. So it's just a matter of whether he comes down with it or not really this week. And like I say, he's due. We'll see. Goddard has gotten a little more feature in the offense since he came back from injury compared to before, which is nice.
He's had a couple of games in a row with 9 targets here.
So we'll see how that goes. They were definitely missing him when he was out, which he only missed 3 games with a broken arm, which is insane.
That is insane.
He's freaking wild, man.
That is pretty wild. They gave that boy some good milk, apparently.
Seriously. So we'll see. I know they're playing Gannon, so he'll
The
have
revenge
a
game.
good idea of like what he wants to like at least try and stop. Whether they can do that or not with that defense, we'll see. They've definitely been more of like a run funnel. I don't even know if that's a thing, but like they've been absolutely decimated on the ground this year. So probably a Swift game, but it could be anybody's this week.
Gainwell.
I mean,
Kenny G.
step up, put him in the lineup.
I might. I just might. I just might. I've considered it. I'm not gonna lie, but
No.
seems a little too sauce.
That'd be a fun one for next week's
My
podcast. if you do.
flexes are not 100% in stone right now. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
It's a moving target right now. We're here on the PhD Dynasty podcast. We're trying to give you the best information at the current given moment. Anything could change.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into these phenomenal wide receivers here. We got Tyreek Hill left and Mike Evans, both of which are having tremendous seasons. Let's start with Mike Evans. Evans is the wide receiver 3 this year. It's his best statistical season since 2016.
Crazy.
Which is crazy to think about at age 30. He's showing absolutely zero signs of slowing down. He's playing the same game he's played since he was a rookie, essentially. Right now he's at 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns. He needs 1 more to tie his career high. So there's a chance he could break it with 2 touchdowns, which would be crazy. Once again, at age 30 through 15 games here. He's also had, I don't think he's ever going to get to 173 targets a game. But he's got 124 through 15 games and has 2 more left. So he could easily get into the 140s, 150s, but maybe not that 173 number.
Yeah, wow, that's.
I still forgot about that season with Jameis. Was just insanity.
It was a great time for all.
It was.
Listen, when it comes to
Mr.
Mr. OG Lamb, Mike Evans, the praise can't be high enough from myself, from any, he's the model of consistency, and he brought it last week, especially when I needed it, especially when I'm starting Baker. Slight concern because he's going up against his nemesis on the Saints. I don't know. Is Lattimore still hurt? I don't know.
Wonderful question.
But regardless, I think one of his worst games of the year. I'm seeing he had a dud against the Falcons, but thankfully he did that when I had everything clinched. But against the Saints, I think was his second worst game of the year.
3 for 40.
So
4 points was his second worst game for sure.
Yeah, so there is a possibility that he has something like that again, where and the Falcons 2 weeks ago just double covered him, and that's Godwin had a huge game against Atlanta. That's always possible. I'm not benching Mike Evans, but
You can't bench Mike Evans.
no, God no. But could there be not a huge division on the line? I expect us to the Bucs to force a few balls in the red zone if he's not getting the necessary targets, or if he's not getting catches early. But
yeah, Baker's not afraid to throw it.
No, and they always run plays for him in the red zone. They're always going to take those shots from the 25, 30, or like the first touchdown last week right before the half, or second touchdown.
He's scored in 16 games. He's only had 4 of those games without a touchdown. He's had a touchdown in 12
he's just
of 16. It's pretty insane.
That's going to be the strongest thing for his Hall of Fame case. Obviously, the 1,000-yard streak, but the reason I do think he'll get in over a bunch of these, there's a logjam of Hall of Fame stuff because he's pretty high up the touchdown list in his career. He's approaching like 100 career touchdowns. Like he's not going to get it this year.
Sorry.
I think he's on like, I think he's got like 95 or something. Like he'll get
He's got
100.
5 games over 12 or 5 seasons over 12
Yeah,
touchdowns.
he's
That's
just
insane.
that's what he does. He's obviously
Do you
size.
think if he didn't play again after this year, do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
No, I think he needs to put on a couple more years, 2 or 3 more years, and keep the streak, the 1,000-yard streak going. Maybe there's a research. The Bucks we're not winning the Super Bowl this year, next year, but like if they make the playoffs a couple more years in a row with Evans there, like that strengthens his case too. So.
I mean, I'd put him in. It's just
I think he's a Hall of Famer already, but
I think so too. It's just there's so many receivers, so many.
Yeah,
like,
it's getting insane with like even I think I saw some of the finalists that came out today, like Andre Johnson,
Yeah,
for
that's what I'm saying.
example. Guys
and like Hines
that.
Ward can't make the cut. Torrey Holt can't even make the finalists. There's a lot of.
It might take him a while.
It's you almost have to like move the goalposts for like modern football because of how much more yardage and offense there is. Which I don't know if they have. Do you feel like that's going to happen with the quarterbacks? They're going to start being up, like
it could. It definitely could.
Rivers, Eli, like those guys.
I can't put Rivers in the Hall of Fame. I just can't. I can't do it. I love the guy though. I don't know. It's just I just well, obviously the no championships is a big thing, but
Flacco.
I don't know.
Well, I think I think when Flacco wins the Super Bowl this year, I think you have to put him in.
He's the
if he wins the Super Bowl with the Browns, James, the NFL can't possibly be scripted.
No,
like what the single most statistical like playoff run in NFL history.
Well, it'll be second best after he.
That's true. Very true.
Guy's red hot, man. All right, let's go over to Tyreek Hill on the other side. Sean, you've probably been following his. Or not injury. Oh, tell us what you got for us this week.
Reek is fast. Waddle is out. He's going to have to be very fast so that he gets the ball more.
That's a good point.
I
forgot Waddle's out this week.
So it looks like he's good to go with the ankle injury.
Yeah, he got a limited
that hurts
practice.
Team morale for the Lions.
I mean,
all right, let's. Sorry,
Tyreek, man. I mean, he's great.
Yeah, Tyreek. He's been scoring absurd amounts of points.
Yeah, like nobody else in the NFL, he tilts the field, man. So he'll be the focus of the McDonald defense all day. We'll see. I really like it if Kyle Hamilton doesn't play. I know that. I really like that game offensively for both teams.
Yeah, that's an injury to watch for sure. Yeah, because he's great.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be right around his career high in targets from last year. I'd imagine he'd probably break the target record for himself at 170. He's got 12 touchdowns this year, 1,600 yards. Still probably shooting for that 2,000 mark.
Yeah.
Do you think he gets 2,000?
Probably not. It's
gonna be close.
Yeah, I think the injury slowed him down because it basically cost him a game and a half.
Not that it matters for our league, but who's their last game this year? Who are they playing in Week 18?
Huge game against the Bills.
Yeah, it's Baltimore and then Buffalo. Tough finish to the season for the Dolphins here. Dallas, Buffalo, Baltimore.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can get like 100 and change this week, they might. What's that put him at? It said 16.
They put him at 1750-ish.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't know.
He'd need to go off for like 175.
Yeah.
To have a real shot at it, I think.
He needs an Amari Cooper kind of game, basically. But hopefully not.
They clinch the division if they win this week?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would maybe change things, perhaps. But Also, Bucks can clinch playoff spot this week. All they got to do is win.
Yeah, just by beating the Saints.
They
But,
got to do it.
if the Dolphins win this week, the number 1 seed becomes available because they would beat the Ravens. So like they're going to be playing. They're going to be playing the last 2 weeks no matter what.
There's going to be some meaningful football out there. All right, let's go down to everybody's favorite flex and tight end positions. We talked about Dallas Goedert a little bit. James, Gerald Everett, we kind of talked about your hope for the 4.2
Show the
points.
show it. Show the consistency.
All right, let's show the consistency.
I need the people to see the consistency.
All right, let's start right from the top, James. This is a full Gerald Everett deep dive that we're gonna do
we
here.
don't need the full team. Just like the last 4 weeks.
3, 0, 7, 8, 1, 0.
Look at the
10.
green on the
Oh,
bottom.
look at this.
Look at the green
4,
though.
3,
3 straight weeks
4,
with 8.
4.
3 straight weeks of 8 targets. Okay.
I feel like you're reading me a phone number. Jesus.
This is a toll number 1-800-567-777.
Hey. Palmer's
He's getting
out.
quite a-
Palmer's going to be out. Allen's out. Gerald Everett's basically their best receiver. So
Was Palmer ruled out?
he wasn't ruled out,
He's
but I don't know,
targets.
he's questionable.
Oh, he's got a concussion. Yeah, he's not going to play.
Yeah. And look, sleepers telling
They
you,
have no real reason
Gerald
to
Everett
play him.
could see a lot of targets. Okay. They know.
Could see a lot of
Doesn't mean
targets.
he's going to catch him, James.
Hey, he caught 7 of 8 last week, and
That's efficiency, Sean.
yeah. So
Oh, yeah. Big
know,
East, big efficiency.
he's gonna get his.
I feel like
his-
Gerald Everett is 35 and he's only 29 somehow.
How is he?
I'm not sure.
That's amazing.
Number 20, James, he's approaching tight end 2 category here. We're almost on a good week this week might do it for him.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
James is always looking for tight ends.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the flex positions. Frankly, these can be. I think this is the make or break. I feel like the top half of the lineup for both you guys is pretty strong at this point, and it may even be a bit of a mirror perhaps at times. But down here is where I think the game might be won. So let's start with Alvin Kamara playing the Bucks. First time he played the Bucks, he had 8.4 points. Pretty much not a whole lot going on. I think
I wish
just
we
a big-
played PPR.
I've never seen a game with 13 catches for 33 yards, though. I think
That was when
he
Derek
almost got
Carr's,
their PPR legend status too.
Derek Carr's shoulder was. I don't know why he played that game. I don't remember. Carr couldn't throw the ball downfield.
Oh, that's right. It could have been a Jameis game, but it wasn't.
It should have been. They were idiots for playing Carr, and so it was just check down Charlie all day.
You could have said that every week of the year so far.
That's
Yeah,
that's true.
seriously.
That's true.
Derek Carr, man, he stinks. He's
I
not
should
good.
start him last week. He played. He was better than Baker. He had 30 something points.
Dude, garbage time cars.
Yeah. Yeah,
Unmatched.
that's true.
Doesn't he have a pretty good matchup this week again, Carr?
Well, he's playing the Bucks.
Oh yeah, the Bucks. Yeah, from a passing perspective, I think
Yeah.
we could be beaten on, especially if Carlton isn't playing. I don't know. If you're out there looking for another league for a flex play or a low end QB2 play, Derek
Yeah.
Carr's
He's your
so
guy.
lately, Alvin Kamara not getting quite the snap numbers that he had been getting earlier in the year. Still producing, but maybe not at the same clip, Sean.
Yeah, I mean he's a volume play this week with hopefully he falls into the end zone kind of deal. Really, I mean, I think the sleeper projection's a little high on Kamara, 11.39.
11.3.
I think he's more in the 8 to 9.5 range, but I'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're.
Like I said, I'm still playing with my flexes. I don't even know if I'm gonna start him or not.
Now that'd be a hell of a bench. Alvin Kamara getting benched in the championship game would be interesting for sure.
The Bucks stop the run.
They sure do.
And we talked a little bit about DeMarcus.
Yeah.
We'll move down to Austin Eckler, who I feel is more of the counter to Kamara there, Eckler
Yeah.
Kamara. So
He had a pretty good game
obviously,
last week.
yeah, he did have a decent game last week. 15 for 65. Also gave 21 extra yards in the air. So, I mean, it was a matchup too where just the Chargers are so fucking bad. They're so terrible. And if you can get I think if you get 9, you got to be pretty happy here, right? Against a Denver team that could be beaten on the ground.
Yeah, their defense is still not. They hemorrhage yards. The Patriots have got a bunch of yards on them. I mean, look, I'm starting 2 Chargers this week, and I'm not, and it's they're locked into my lineup. I'm not taking either guy out because Denver's defense is
Yeah, they're not impressive. We'll put it that
And it's
way.
funny, like the way the schedule, because there's no Monday night game this week, and I believe Sean and I do not have any Vikings or Packers unless I throw a KJ Osborne in there, which
Ooh,
I don't think I'm going to do that.
spicy.
But so our game will come down to the 4:25 window, and for now, it's looking like that Broncos Chargers game because I have two Chargers and you have two Broncos again, unless you change it.
I have one.
I saw Cortland Sutton in your lineup, unless you changed that.
Did
change that.
Oh, I got the old yoink with Jarrett Stidham, franchise quarterback. Jarrett Stidham.
Should I start Jarrett Stidham? I picked him up today. I don't know. I might.
James.
I just might.
That would be a hell of a fucking play. That would be a hell of a play in the championship game.
Jarrett Stidham.
Oh man, I'd love it.
Jarrett Stidham was literally in this scenario last year and he balled out. So
I know. That's why I might do it.
James, if you win the championship and Jarrett Stidham is your starting quarterback, is he the player that you put on your trophy jersey?
I'd have to consider it. Yeah.
I think
We'll
you'd have to at least consider it. I mean, McCaffrey truly deserves it, but
No.
it might be a Jarrett Stidham game.
Could be.
Oh man, that would be crazy if he pulled that off. Anywho, yeah, Eckler, he feels like a pretty good overall counter to Kamara perhaps this week.
Yeah.
You know, just maybe a wash there as well. Let's talk about Javonte Williams in that same game. Javonte has been a pretty good flex overall. Meh flex, yeah.
Yeah, that's the right reaction.
mid.
I think people were expecting a lot more out of him. Not really doing that, but he hasn't been bad. His yards per carry are way down, but that offense is not really explosive, and I feel like they're stacking a lot of boxes, and he's not able to really do anything with that, unfortunately.
39% snaps though last week. That's I can't believe it was that low.
That is pretty low and very inefficient. 11 carries for 24 yards.
Oh,
Just not a good day.
He fumbled and then got pulled for a lot of the game. He came
Sean
back.
Payton,
Yeah.
the quarterback mastermind himself. Dude, what a mess the Broncos are. What an absolute mess.
Yeah. It's not great.
I mean, what's the cap hit that they're gonna have to eat if they cut? I think I saw it's just like $80 million
Yeah.
of dead
Yep.
cap or something.
Yep.
I mean, that's just absurd. It's insane. But they might have to do it because it's the best option they have. I don't get it. Man. It's nuts.
We'll see the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if Jarrett Stidham turns out to be the Hall of Fame player that James might be hoping for this last week, you never know. All right, so let's go to Devin Singletary versus Tennessee.
So this is who you put in over because I was pretty sure you had Sutton earlier.
I just want to start Singletary against you and just prove that I officially won that trade.
Let's look at the trade details down here. Hold on, we got the trade details.
I got Carr, Boyd, and that 3rd round pick was AJ Dillon, and I won that year in a large part because of Boyd. So
Yeah, it's hard to say that you lost the trade when you win a chip. But
yeah,
I got Singletary. I got a 1st round pick that I
Yeah.
ended up trading and turned it into Jonathan Taylor. So
that was probably like a win-win kind of trade, like I said, because I got what I wanted out of it. Like Boyd definitely helped me that year and other years.
Nice to bring up trades from 2019, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, but no, I remember this trade. Yeah, no, and I wasn't sure if Singletary would be good on his second contract stop, but you know I should have known because I know Damian Pierce was a fraud. So
Alex didn't see that.
Alex, we tried to tell him, but
well, if you look at his numbers, he's actually pretty much just right around that 4 point whatever yards per carry. He gets the job done. The guy, he's nothing special, but he certainly gets the job done.
He gets Stroud back this week. That'll help.
I didn't know Stroud was playing this week. That's good for him. That's very good.
He cleared today or yesterday.
Yeah, he's going to play.
All right, James, your last guy is Joe Mixon in a 325 game at Kansas City. Mixon is the number 9 overall running back this year. He's been pretty consistent, frankly, all year long. Do you expect anything different here against KC?
No, I think he's going to have a good game against Kansas City. Their run defense, they just got gashed by Zamir White for 150 on the ground. So and Mixon last week was his worst game in 2 months, I think.
It was his lowest snap percentage all year.
Well, it was his worst game since the last time he played Pittsburgh. 3 weeks
Yeah,
ago,
so-
basically.
Yeah,
But
so Pittsburgh was rough.
basically, in the last like 2 months when he hasn't played Pittsburgh, he's been like over 10 points. And I do expect the same against I expect him to have a good game against Kansas City. They've been using Chase Brown more. They've been using some other, but when they get to the goal line, it's Mixon. He's just got to know. He's got a nose for the end zone, and I he didn't get his touchdown last week. I'm hoping for 1 or 2 this week. So.
And he seems to be pretty involved in the running or in the receiving
Yeah.
game here, which
They're an excellent screen pass team. It's like the most random thing.
every
but, like,
time, yeah, him and even Chase Brown.
Chase Brown's great. But
They
like
look
Mixon's had a lot of yards on screens this year. They are an excellent.
Chase Brown is so fast.
He's good.
If he gets
He's gonna be something next year.
going,
Yeah, no, yeah, because I don't know if Mixon's gonna be back, and Brown's pretty good.
I'm thinking he's gonna have a lot more opportunities next year.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about these kicker defense battles real quick. Defense. Let's start with the defense. Kickers is kind of up in the air always. So
I may change mine too. I'm unsure. If Trevor's not playing, I can't start a Jags kicker.
that's totally fair. So we got San Francisco against Washington. Jacoby Brissett game. Not great.
But real quick, I don't know. Was Sean laughing at the nickname on McManus? If you remember, I gave him that nickname after I beat you last year because it was like I think it was like he had like a 15-point Monday night game that I beat you, so I named him Mick MVP. So that's that.
Kickers. Can we get rid of kickers at all?
Nope.
Please, can we finally pass this vote?
Nope. It's part of real football. So.
I had Dustin Hopkins and Sanders both on my roster last week, and I started Hopkins.
Well, that's your fault.
He gets hurt and gets and fucking Sanders kicks 4 50-yard field goals.
Well, you should have started Sanders. I put a claim in on Sanders. I wanted him.
He is so dumb. What a waste of time. Oh,
That's a debate for another podcast, gentlemen.
so stupid.
Well, well, I'm sure that topic will come up again this offseason, as it always does. So San Francisco against Washington, we got a Jacoby Brissett game.
I'm actually kind of upset.
cook
I
'em.
was hoping Sam Howell would still be in because he's a turnover and sack machine. So I
He
actually
does
think
love every bit of that.
That's not. I don't know. That game might be more of a shootout now with Brissett playing, which is
Yeah.
bad for me. But that means more McCaffrey.
if there's a surprise Kyler Murray rule out because he's been hurt this week, he's missed practice. I may go back to the Eagles. So we'll see.
Interesting.
That's,
And then
Well,
Sean,
no,
on your
only
side- oh, sorry.
only if it's Clayton Tune or whatever ass is in there. And I'm not against Kyler Murray.
And Sean, you got Houston versus Tennessee right now. Is that subject to change as well, or are you going to probably roll that out?
my only other option would be the Packers and against Jaron Hall. And I don't care who's playing quarterback. The Packers suck on defense. So
Yeah.
probably going with Houston this week.
Man, Packers let Baker Mayfield have that giant
Yeah.
performance on Lambeau. That's pretty rough.
They gave up 30 points to the Panthers. That's all I need to know.
I
Yeah,
think
that
that
was
should
okay.
maybe wrap it up for this season for the Panthers. I think
I don't
that's
know how
about it.
that DC still has a job. It's incredible.
All right, so let's wrap up the podcast with a couple of maybe interview type questions. What player, Sean, are you most scared of on the Lambs this week, outside of Christian McCaffrey, perhaps, because everybody's scared of him?
Probably CeeDee Lamb against the Detroit secondary.
Yeah, that's. I would definitely agree with that statement.
Detroit secondary has been so bad this year, and CeeDee Lamb has just eaten against every bad matchup. So limiting, like I said, like I was talking about earlier, like if Detroit can dominate just time of possession and just limit how much damage he can do, that would be great for me. So
No, it totally makes sense. James, what player on Sean's team maybe scares you a little bit?
I think I have to go with Kyron Williams because the Rams, the staple of McVay, Shannon, they want to run the ball, right? Like they want to give their running backs 30 carries. The Rams have nobody else that they trust, so they just give Kyron all 30. He could easily have a 30-point game, right? 30 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like the Giants suck. It's like you said, it's a weather game in New York. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be sweating out that game from Kyron Williams.
All right, and then last question, Sean, what player outside of your main heavy hitters do you think is going to pop off this week? or maybe not even pop off. Like rephrase it as having a bigger week than expected.
That's a good question.
James, start thinking because you're getting the same question.
Oh, I have my answer locked in.
James, why don't you go? Then we'll let him.
Wait. I want to guess James's answer.
Oh, ooh. Interesting.
I think James is gonna say
Gerald Everett.
Fuck off. I think he's gonna say Nixon.
No, the correct answer was Gerald Everett.
Oh my god. Get the fuck
There
out
it
of
is.
I'm telling you, it's the power of belief. There's no better time for the Lambs. There's no better time for the Lambs to get their first 10-point performance from a tight end than this week.
James, can you rename the OG or the nickname for Gerald Everett to the power of belief, please? It has to happen.
Yeah.
It has to. Power of belief, Gerald Everett. That would be incredible.
Look, then like I said, they have no receivers. He's been getting a lot of targets. He gets stopped at the 1 yard line last week. I was excited because perfect, Austin Eckler time, and then Easton Stick ran it in, so I was upset.
And nobody's happy about that.
And then nobody got points.
I'll take Javonte Williams on my team. His last good game was against the Chargers, so
yeah, that could be a good one.
Nice. All right, well, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks, guys, for hopping on to talk about the championship game. Once again, congratulations for making it this far. And then the winner will be immortalized in PHU Dynasty history, as always, and we'll get to hoist the first championship jersey, so that'll be exciting. And, we'll see you guys next week to talk probably to the winner here. So we'll have a post-season interview episode, and then it turns into full rookie draft coverage and off-season dynasty coverage. So enjoy the season while it lasts here for the last week, and we'll see you all next time.
Drake May, QB1.
Oh boy, that's going to be fighting words later this offseason. All right. We'll see you next time.